The meeting to order. I will note that all board members are present with the exception of Chuck Meyer, Hugh, Calvin Corridors, and Larry Williams. First up on the agenda, we have an acceptance of our February 27th, 2020 minutes. Have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Next up, we have a report from the Secretary. Joe.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
I would note that we are operating under the modified open meetings law as promulgated by the governor, and we will transcribe the meeting appropriately.
Thank you, Joe. And I'll also note that we're doing the best we can as board members to social distance, and I appreciate the folks in the audience doing the same. So carry on.
And I'm pleased to report that we had a successful JSCB bond sale on March 2nd.
Great.
It was very timely in light of recent events.
Indeed.
And the next meeting is April 30th, so that gives us some time, which will probably work to our advantage.
Yeah, agreed.
And that completes my report.
Okay, good report, Joe. Thank you. Next up, we have our report from our program manager, Chris.
Good morning.
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 How is everyone?
Okay.
Good. Take you through Underbid Procurement section. We're busy with that. We did take bids on Clarion Elms. We received 3 bids, which was good news. We were happy about that. Currently under review. Anticipate being able to award several of the alternates there, but it's something we're still having some discussion on in terms of the building budget and opportunity to potentially expand that, and what alternates would be the priority ones that we would pick. So that's all good stuff. In terms of out to bid, Fowler interior package, which was the renovation of it's the 3rd phase and the final phase for the interior renovations at Fowler. That's due on the 26th. We also have a site package at Blodgett, relatively small one, but the parking lot replacement or reconstruction of the parking lots at Blodgett, that bids on the 26th as well. And then we just advertised today for Danforth, which will be due at the beginning of April. And so then that will be good. We'll have almost everything under procurement at the moment, with the exception of developing a site package over at Corcoran, which we're looking at the first quarter of 2021. So, but we're moving along well, hoping that we get good participation. We'll see with the market here what transpires.
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out, and there's a separate page that I included from our small business training that was completed and concluded. It was a good program, got a lot of good feedback on it. The attendees, both in name and their company representation name, is illustrated on there. I just thought that would be good for you to see what that was, and went well.
It's great.
Excuse me. Under project financing and approvals, as Joe said, we had the bond sale. That was our last and final, which is good. So now we have the funding in place to allow us to move forward, which is a good thing. Under construction updates, I wanted to start off by saying, obviously, we're keenly aware of like everyone else is with the COVID-19, and currently we're operating Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30 is what we've identified. We've been working closely with Tom and his staff to staff buildings appropriately with a smaller custodial crew, but nonetheless have access. Have asked all the trades to go to that shift. Not coughing, but
SCR.
I am, but
we can still cough.
Excuse me. That was my almonds from this morning, apparently. So we're working on those set hours. Operationally, we've asked folks a lot of different things going on in our industry right now about how to make workers safe, from whether it's recordable or non-recordable, all that stuff, right down to scanning people for temperature as they're coming into the job site. There's a lot of different things happening. Here locally, what we've asked is that, again, we spread out. We try to limit the crew size to a couple of people, so we don't take breaks in the same spot or walk out to your car on break and take your break in the car. Just anything we can do to not have people on top of each other, combined with the fact that on an accountability side, asking everyone to make sure that they sign in and that we understand who was in the building from an accountability piece, and also where they were working, so we have an understanding of that. But we are developing some plans, hopefully, to turn this into a little bit of a positive in the context that we have unoccupied buildings, and be able to take advantage of that in terms of completing punch list and maybe completing some operations that were potentially would be disruptive to class. again, but being mindful of the fact that we take bite sizes. We're not going to tear into anything that wouldn't put you in a position to be able to come back when you need to. So, but we're going to try and, like I said, use it as an opportunity. And we, do, as I understand it, we do have, I know there was an executive order out yesterday to reduction in force. My understanding of that is, though I haven't seen it in writing, is that construction was not being applied at the moment to construction. So. That said, under the construction updates, moving forward with Blodgett is in good shape. We're predominantly down to just punch list corrective action over there, and then we have some site restoration that has to happen. The site restoration will happen following. We want to make sure that we're good with all the windows. There was a punch list issue for the windows, but if there's any exterior corrective work on the windows, I don't want to go restoring lawns and then drive lifts over them again. Sure. So just if you drive by and say, why haven't we restored that yet? One is weather, and two is we want to make sure that we're done with the windows before we go back up there again. Grant, we're again moving along in terms of work completed over there. The largest portion of the work is completed, probably to the 90%. It's this last 10% that just keeps dragging on and on for us. But we're pushing them to have a plan to complete the roof and to complete work in the pool locker room and just to get through that. So we're working through that. Huntington, same thing.
Excuse me, are the bathrooms done?
4 left. They were the last 4 that we took over. They're the larger ones on the second floor and the first floor. They're the gang bathrooms, so they're larger. So we're working on the second floor, and my understanding is they're back to, now they've got sheetrock going in on the upstairs one. So we're getting there. But those are the last 4 out of
19?
Yeah, I was going to say 18 or 19
That's
that we
at
renovated
Huntington.
in the building at Huntington. Yeah.
You were asking Huntington or Grant?
No, I was asking, well, we were at Grant, so I was asking about Grant before you went to Huntington.
Yeah,
Are
Grant.
the bathrooms done at Grant?
Yeah, Grant, yes. I think
Yes.
there's some punch list stuff remaining, but the bathrooms renovation, yeah.
Okay.
Pool locker rooms are the ones we're trying to finish
Yeah,
right
the
now.
pool locker room, yep. And beyond, now at Huntington, you mentioned, so we mentioned the bathrooms, but then we have 17 classrooms over there that receive new floors, paint, and ceilings. And we've been doing those a couple at a time. The plan is with this opportunity here for the next couple weeks to see what we could do to get through as many of those as we can while folks are not in the building. So we're advancing on that. Ed Smith, again, down to punch list actually at Ed Smith is really, really good. We're 95+% complete on punch list at Ed Smith and at Bellevue for that matter. And now it's just a matter of getting the zeros and ones dialed in terms of any outstanding changes, and then getting trainings completed and getting documentation in. So those are in good shape. Fowler site, we continue to move along over there. We're at a point now, I mean, the report says reconstruction for the track and turf. That's a little confusing, but basically we've now got a level playing field, if you will. All the underground stuff is completed. The foundations for the light poles are completed, and now it's a matter of now starting to bring the site back up in terms of the fill that comes in and the construction of the field in a traditional sense, which is good. Corcoran, keep kind of plugging along there. We're doing that in phases. We take off several rooms, cut the windows in, do the renovations in the classrooms, and then turn them back over. And so that'll just continue. There's multiple phases there. And Nottingham, same thing, taking over a space. Coming in predominantly over there is a lot of the distribution ductwork for all the HVAC systems that will be going in. And then we have some hazardous material that was targeted for April break. So it looks like we'll be on track for that to be able to accomplish that, and maybe even a little bit earlier. So under constraints and critical issues, just again, we've already spoke to it, but the focus at Grant to Huntington to complete. The material supply and schedule I put at the bottom of the sheet. This is one that we're watching again. The supply chains and stuff that's coming from overseas is all being impacted and very volatile at the moment in terms of what will come, won't come, what'll be here and won't. So we're watching that. We've asked the construction managers to identify long lead stuff, items that might be impacted, and just confirming that POs are in place and that we have some idea of where stuff is and where it's coming from. Beyond that, in terms of operating, we've pushed all of our meetings to either WebExes or conference calls in terms of project meetings, and so we'll have an on-site competent person there from each of the construction managers, but that's about it. We're really trying to limit that, and then everybody stays in their own trailers, so to speak. So that's pretty much what I had for my update here. Any questions? Anything specific? Yep.
Right back here. Question for you. So with everything that's going on, is there anything under budget, over budget, anything that you can tell us?
Nothing, well, the one that's in focus at the moment is Clary Elms, because we received bids and they were within the base, the base bid was within our budget. What we're looking at now is there opportunity there, as we've said along, that there's, if funds would permit us to potentially expand that building budget and take on some more alternates. And so that's the one that's probably the most in focus at the moment. Other than that, the budgets we're in decent shape across the board. And then, as I've mentioned before, we're evaluating as some of these come to close, like Bellevue and Ed Smith, and we can get those to come back and be reconciled. What does that yield in terms of, availability? Does that answer the question? Okay.
Anything else?
Question. So now that we have sort of this window where the schools, maybe you've talked about, I apologize for being late. By the way, Mayor, I just want to say you did a great job locking the door down.
Thanks.
It's like Fort Knox, so that's great. Now that we have that window of opportunity, at least until, and the superintendent is here, until April 14th, could be extended. This is a very fluid situation. Does that help to expedite any of the construction that you might be able to have now that you have those buildings sort of unmolested?
It does, and that's what we're working through in terms of plans. I've asked folks to be conservative in your projections. I mean, certainly if we can ramp up and do some more, but I want to be conscious of the fact that the 14th is the 14th and that we're not biting off something that we can't complete in that amount of time. But yeah, certainly it affords us an unoccupied building, which is great. The only piece, and I hope it doesn't translate to this, is that, on the flip side, if summer was shortened, that would be something we'd want to be mindful of as well. These weeks are good, but I don't want to go into our full-blown summer plan at the moment.
Right.
Makes sense.
So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for Chris?
Okay.
Okay, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have our financial statements. Donna.
Good morning.
Morning.
If everybody has their financial statement in front of them, if you want to follow along with me, I am going to start on page 5, which is the statement of net position. At the end of January, we had a total of $91,678,664 million in Phase 1 and Phase 2 cash. Compared to the December statement, cash increased by $182,000 due to the increase in interest income of $153,000, along with a vendor refund of $29,000. The payments for that were authorized by the board in January are not reflected on this financial statement because they didn't show up until February. So we will not realize those payments until February. So that is why there's an increase in cash instead of a decrease. It takes depending on the time of the month that we have the meeting, it takes usually a week after that before the actual payments go out. So we do have that from time to time throughout the year, so that's why it looks this way this month. Also, we have included in this is a capital assets of $223 million, and which does represent all of the activity up to 6/30/19 for closed projects. In the liabilities section, we have a total of $299.8 million, which includes the bonds payable for Phase 1 and Phase 2. This does not include the bonding that we just did. That will be reflected next month because it was done it'll be reflected in March as it was done in March. So at the end of January, the unaudited total net position is $14.9 million. I'm going to move on to page 6. And this is the statement of sources and expenditures For Phase 1, there was no change. In prior months, I had reported the pass-through from the district of $1.8 million, along with the federal subsidy of $359,000. Our expenditures out of Phase 1 was the interest payment of $1.8, and we transferred the $359,000 to the district to help offset debt service. In Phase 2, as I reported in prior months, we had a pass-through of $2.5 million from the district for debt service payment, along with the $695,000 for band payment. Our earnings on investment did increase to $1.1 million this month. As I stated before, the $153,000 that we earned in investment income is reflected in that dollar amount. The capital outlay didn't change, $61.1 million, because none of the payments were reflected here. And our interest payment that was reported in prior months was $2.5 million. Our cash flow statement, which is on the next page, page 7. This report represents all the expenditures, actual expenditures from July all the way to January. February through June are projected, and you can see there I did put the actual amounts in there for the bond closing for March. So if anybody has any questions about that, we can speak to it. So at the end of June, we are projecting that we'll have $145 million left in the bank to pay bills. And then on page 8, which is our inception to date report, the total sources for Phase 1 projects was $142.9. That has not changed, along with the expense of $141.6. And then for Phase 2, our total sources at this point is $216 million, with a total outlay of $129.6 million. And that's the end of my report. Does anybody have questions?
Questions for Don?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Number of resolutions here, and we'll have Joe start walking us through them.
Thank you. Yes, resolution number 19 would be the monthly payment to Landon and Ryan.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 20 would be the monthly payment to the Turner Construction Company.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 21 would be the monthly payments to the various Tranche 1 contractors.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 22 would be the payments for the various Tranche 2 contractors.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 23 is a payment to Bond, Shennick and King for legal services relative to the PLA.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
We do have some legal issues with resolution number 24, which is an amendment to the CNS contract. If the board wishes for more detailed legal advice, we could go into executive session.
Mayor would like to present a motion to go into executive session to get legal advice on this resolution.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're going to go into executive session. Anyone in here that shouldn't be?
No, the staff is all.
Video.
Yep, gotcha. So
Everyone's-
all staff is here.
They're all- it's all good,
We will
yep.
close the doors. We'll turn off the microphone, and hopefully whoever is monitoring the video can shut it down. Either way, we'll have the mics off.